government is being warned against potentially scrapping the state's drug diversion program. Possession laws under the previous Labor government saw offenders given 3 warnings for carrying under a gram of drugs prior to facing criminal charges. But a former prison boss warns getting rid of the program could see police resources drained and more offenders locked up for minor drug possessions. For more on this, I'm joined by criminologist Terry Goldsworthy. Terry, thank you for your time this morning. This is quite controversial. So what's your opinion on the handling of it? And should we be focused on improving our police force, not substituting public safety?
Yeah, good morning. Look, I disagree with the premise that was put forward by the former prison boss yesterday in the newspapers. I mean, if you're going to have a look at the data around this, it's quite concerning what we've seen happen since these laws came into effect in early 2024. I had a look at the data last night, and the public data shows us that since these laws have come into effect, we've seen a 12% increase in drug offences in Queensland. The rate of trafficking offences has gone up 9%. The rate of drug possession charges has gone up 7% compared to the previous period where these laws weren't in place. So we've seen increased drug use. Perhaps more concerning, if you have a look at the program itself, the data that was released into the Parliament this week shows that it's got about a 63% recidivism rate, and that is that people get warned the first time, the second time they have to go to a drug intervention, a diversion, and then there's a third drug diversion opportunity for them. 53% of them had used all 3 opportunities. That says to me that the system is failing. And if you put it in a broader context, it was only a month ago we had the AFP do the biggest cocaine bust in history when they pulled up 2.5 tonnes of cocaine coming into Queensland. Queensland put up the sign that we were open for business for drug barons and drug gangs, and they are not stupid. They take note of changes to the laws like this and they feed on those opportunities. And I think we've seen that happen in Queensland.
Well, absolutely. Queensland has a crime crisis, and as you said, there is a direct link between drugs and crime. So what do you think needs to happen?
Well, the first thing I think is that the government's doing the right thing by repealing these laws that allow you to have possession of cocaine, methamphetamine and heroin. And let's not forget the base problem with this, that these drugs are highly addictive. We spent millions, hundreds of millions on highlighting how dangerous heroin and ice were. And then we go and say, oh, it's okay, you can have 3 free goes at it and hopefully you won't get addicted. It's just stupidity of the highest order. If you look at, the comments around people will be going to jail, people will be getting convicted, going to court, etc., that's simply false. The data from the Sentencing Council in Queensland tells us that 93% of people don't go to jail for these matters, about 7% do. In terms of convictions, 60% of adults don't get a conviction and 85% of youth offenders don't get a conviction. So I don't think it'll clog up the courts. I don't think it'll tie up the police. You've got to remember that the police are already tied up when they're interacting with these people on the 3 occasions that they're dealing with them for the drugs. They've got to take possession of the drugs, they've got to enter things onto the computer system, etc. So I don't think it's going to make any impact at all on the courts, the prisons, nor police time. We do have a crime crisis. We know there's a link between drugs and crime. To put up that sign and say, hey, come and get into the drugs here is problematic, especially when things like the National Household Drug Survey told us last year, 2023, that our use of illicit drugs was quite stable in Queensland. There was no issue in terms of it going up.
I couldn't agree with you more. Now, when it comes to drugs, pill testing and injecting rooms, they're also quite controversial and divisive approaches to crime. Now, how do we justify making certain drugs completely illegal, but then acceptable and even assisting with their consumption under certain umbrellas and certain circumstances? And then once people leave these so-called music festivals or injecting rooms, they're free to commit these crimes.
Yeah, look, injecting rooms, I guess it was a legacy of the HIV epidemic when it came to give clean needles, etc. It's probably one of the lesser evils. I've got an injecting room about 1 kilometre as a crow flies from my house. It's been there for many years now. Pill testing I rail against because I think it sends out a false message that it gives an impression of safety. If you ever get a pill tester and ask them, does it make drug taking safe? They'll never answer the question because they know it doesn't. We've seen that the recidivism rates for pill testing, people who are going to use the services, sit above 90%. So that by that I mean that people who get their drugs tested at these festivals, etc., generally most of the studies that I've seen in Australia show that more than 90% of them retain the drugs and take the drugs. So, they claim that they're a service that's providing awareness to people about drugs and drug use is problematic. Well, that's the whole message we have with our current drug policy, which is a harm minimisation policy. So I don't think we should be engaging or embracing pill testing. It's a fallacy. And, we need to monitor these other programs as well and make sure that they're being utilised in appropriate manners.
Terry Goldsworthy, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.